What's up, Warriors, and welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Movement Podcast, Voice for the Voiceless. I am your host, Chris. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been tuning in these last couple episodes. We are on September 3rd, which is part of Suicide Prevention Month, and today's special guest is a fellow warrior, fellow survivor, fellow podcaster under Play the Tape. Please help me welcome Derrick. Derrick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing real good. And listen, Chris, I thank you for allowing me to be on your platform today. It's a blessing, and thank you so much. I'm honored. I really am.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. Like I always mention to you every time we have a conversation, I am truly grateful that NAMI platform gave us the opportunity to link up and be able to have those conversations. And the last two podcasts I did with you were really great. So thank you for allowing me to share my story. And now today we're going to share your story. So it all works out, man.
Yeah.
So with September being Suicide Prevention Month, it has its meaning to me, and I'm sure many others in this community as well as yourself. If you could tell me and the listeners what Suicide Prevention Month means to you.
Suicide Prevention Month means to me is education, advocacy, support, and community. We, as survivors of suicide, because I know your story and you'll get to know mine, but I'm in that category as well. And I fall with, and I can identify in that. It's whatever we can do to let people know that they have a community of people that love them and support them. And if they have those suicide ideations or plans or attempts it's okay. First and foremost, it's okay not to be okay, but it's okay to ask for help. Don't let no one or nothing stand in your way of getting the help you need. And don't think that you're weak because you need help. The strongest people ask for help. That takes courage. And I just want to encourage people that it took me a long time to ask for help and set aside my pride and be encouraged to ask for help. And I think that's what Suicide Prevention Month is for me, is encouragement. If I have to pick a word, it would be encouragement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I feel like, just being a mental health advocate in general for myself, it's all about, a community, it's all about encouraging each other, uplifting each other. And like yourself, it took me a long time to put aside my pride and be like, man, I think it's time that I get the help that I deserved when I was a kid. And, kind of like I told you in my story, when we recorded, when I was younger, those resources were a joke, to be quite honest. And while we're in a better place today, with resources and, just being able to find the help that all of us may or may not need, I feel there's still so much work in this community that I feel needs to be done, whether it's men's mental health or whether it's now, I mean, I hate saying this, but now the suicide rate is increasing in our youth. Their kids are starting to endure the trauma that their parents had to endure because they didn't get help. And, like you said, education and awareness. And, it's not a trendy topic. It's not a hashtag. I mean, I know I've said that so many times in the last couple of podcasts, but it's not just a hashtag that you have for a month and just, you want to be trendy and get your likes. It's nothing. It's so much more than that, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. There are, I am definitely an advocate for advocating for yourself. I'm definitely an advocate for educating yourself, and QPR and Living Work Smart, and NAMI, all these different National Alliance for Mental Illness, all these organizations, and I'm pretty sure there's so many more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are the ones that I have trained with that can promote education and how to de-escalate and how to talk and how to communicate when it comes to people that have suicide ideations, that have that, and survivors of suicide. I didn't even know that was a thing until I started taking training. I understand that is a thing. And it's both suicide, survivors of suicide, meaning the survivors of the attempt. And then on the other hand, you have the survivors, the people that are left because of someone that had a, how do you put it? What do you call it? Is a phrase in the life, right? That. So there's survivors on both sides. There's survivors of people that are left behind because of their loved ones that dealing with that guilt, that shame. What could I have done better? And there are people like you and me that are survivors of suicide, the attempt, that guilt, that shame. Now, what can we do to combine these communities, right, to prevent it? Right. So suicide is deep. It goes deep, and I'm with you. It's not talked about. It's taboo, and I think we need to, and think it needs to be talked about and have a healthy discussion about it. Yes.
So let me ask you this question, since we're on this subject. Do you think that we should be 100% blunt when it comes to just suicide awareness, and not like sugarcoating anything when it comes to educating people and spreading awareness? Do you think there's certain wording that we should be careful of how we share our stories with, or do you think you should be 100% real, 100% raw with, like, I guess, educating others about your story or my story?
As far as our stories, I think we should be 100% raw. When it comes to suicide, there are preventive measures and things. When you are around someone, and I know I'm a feel person, I can feel when someone is low in their spirit. I'm going to ask them, are you okay? Is there anything that you would like to talk about? And then going from there, tuning into what they say, how they say it, and their movement, the way they're carrying themselves. There's certain key words and certain phrases that when people are thinking about suicide, or it has come across their mind, that's when you tune in, and that's when you ask them, listen, are you thinking about suicide? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I love you, and I want you to know that you have someone that cares for you, and you can talk to me judgment free. And if they say yes, then okay, that's serious. Then you move on to the, how can I help? How can I be a help to you? Not, man, you ain't thinking about suicide, are you? That's crazy.
Right. Like you just said, it's the language matters, man.
Right. The delivery, you just dismiss this person's feelings, and now they're going to shut down. Are you thinking about suicide, Chris? Are you thinking about suicide, Derrick? You know what? I have. You know what? I'm glad you told me. And suicide is serious. And you have someone in your corner that'll hold your hand through this process. Now, I do know some people that we can talk to, call or text. What do you think about that?
Right.
There are ways, but that comes with training. Yep. And that comes with education. Yeah. So when it comes to the story, your testimony, yeah, rawness is fine. But when it comes to suicide and prevention and tuning in, that takes a little bit more tact.
Yeah. Because, I feel like, the common person who hasn't been through like anything traumatic, I mean, obviously not downplaying anybody's low points in their life, but, maybe they haven't gone through something traumatic like yourself or me. Right. And I feel like the average person that doesn't really know how to be there for somebody in the correct way. It's just like, I'm here for you. We hear that so many times. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've heard "I'm here for you" phrase. And when it comes to being in that low point of our life, it's just like, well, where are you? Where's that "I'm here for you" now? And most people don't understand how much goes into helping somebody, because like I just said a few minutes ago, language matters on every spectrum of the mental health community. It's whether it's depression, whether it's suicide, whether it's anxiety. You can't just say, give that false hope to somebody and tell somebody that you're there for them, and just disappear or just shut down because you don't want to deal with whatever your friends may be dealing with. It's hard to find those genuine people that are actually there for you.
Yeah, I agree. And it takes me And I'm still learning how to be that in my recovery, on my recovery journey. I'm still learning how to be that. I'm still learning how to reach out to people that are part of my support team and part of my support family, where it's like, man, okay, let me just call to say hi, I love you, or send a quick text, or sometimes I need to call to hear their voice. And there's some people I'm better at it than others. Like there's one guy, my brother, I call him D. D is we can have conversations for hours. And he's a addict in recovery as well. And he called and checked on me, and I called and check on him. And I want to be able to do that consistently with all of my support team, my support family. I want to be able to call them, and they can call me too. But sometimes that can get a little, your cup can get drained.
Absolutely.
Right. And you have to refill your cup. And that's when self-care comes in.
Self-care, yeah.
Right. But you have to have that self-care. If you have that self-care, then yeah, absolutely, you can be there. And for me, I want to tell your viewers and your listeners, I know for me, I'm the type of person, what do you need from me? That's how I always put it out there, because I don't want to assume anything, because I don't want to assume anything from me. What can Derrick do for you at this moment?
Right.
And I'll let you know if I can do it, and I'll let you know if I can't, because I don't want to give no false hope. I want to give hope, but I don't want to give false hope. So,
Yeah. And, I feel like, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the language on telling somebody how you're there for them, like you said, what can I do to help? How can I be there for you? And that's usually how I phrase it to people. It's like, do you need anything? Can I help you with something? Or when I was doing the crisis text line, it was always, de-escalating people. But when it's outside of an official working an official text line, and you're working with people that are very close to you, that are in that internal battle with themselves, I've had to call the crisis line for somebody and them to sit on the phone. And I'm like, I can stay here and listen, or I can leave. I got you this far, whatever you need, I'm here. And I've had to sit on the phone with somebody while they were talking to a crisis representative. And it's tough, man. When somebody's in a crisis, I feel it takes a very special person to be able to de-escalate that person and to be able to help them properly, because most people don't know how to help others in crisis. If it's not a
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're okay. I was just going to say, if it's not a financial thing, most people will be like, oh, well, keep your head up or it'll be okay. Oh man, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Just being in that state of mind is the worst.
It's all about education. There are classes that teach de-escalation as well. There's I'm CIT certified, and that's mostly for police officers and first responders. But I went to the class because I wanted to know how our officers, because they're our first line of defense, our EMTs, our firefighters, those people that are on the front lines every day, come and the corrections, people in corrections, they come to as crisis intervention team and as crisis intervention training, and they teach these first responders how to de-escalate the situation so that they can prioritize if this person is having a mental health or a substance use crisis, and how, or a suicide crisis, or how to de-escalate that to see what needs need to be met, instead of just taking them to jail, putting them in the back of a squad car. Now there are options of integrated family services or mobile crisis unit, where you get licensed and certified therapists that will come on the spot to give people like you and me and your listeners and your viewers, whoever they may be, who suffer from these conditions as we do, more options than being more traumatized with when we see the police or when we see these first responders. And I think it goes back to what you said before: education, dialogue, delivery, words, and really, it takes a special person that want to go take these classes and these trainings to understand, how can I be of service to my community when I'm in that type of crisis.
Absolutely, man. And I really hope that CIT. I hope all of that just it starts going worldwide, because I feel like it's one of the greatest tools that I've ever learned
Mhm.
about, and ever talked
Absolutely.
about. You know, the conversations I've had with Tiffany about it, and reading her book, and just being on that NAMI platform with you guys, just hearing the different aspects and the different resources that we have available to us now versus like 10, 15 years ago is absolutely phenomenal, right? Um, so let's shift gears here a little bit. Want to talk about you, you know, and in your journey. So when does the mental health journey begin for Derrick? What does your journey look like, and how did you get to where you are now?
Two parent home. Um, got the baby of six. But me and my brother from my mom were in the home, and I knew about my other brothers and sisters, but uh, me and my brother are from my mom, and uh, my dad and my mom and my brother's mom were together in the home. I didn't want for anything, you know, but there was tension, there was abuse, there was alcoholism, there was um, uncertainty, there were chaos. um, my dad was a great provider. He's a 27-year vet, Desert Storm vet. He did 30 years in a manufacturing company. And my mother, she worked too at a manufacturing plant. She used to make shirts. Then she went to this standardized company that would make motors and car parts. And she was there till 1995, where she had, she got diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks, and she had to come out of the workforce, and everything was on my dad. And my dad was and he was a difficult man to live with, in a sense. When he would drink, he would become very violent. I believe, as I look back on my journey now, that he had his own ACE score, adverse childhood experiences, which I've come to learn on my journey that most of us have. Some ACE scores are higher than others. And he had his own ACE scores. And then not only did he have his own ACE scores, he was in Desert Storm. And back then, there was no such thing as PTSD. It was called shell shock. And they're learning about it more as they go, but it's still a very unexplored uh, territory of what this mental illness is, as far as post-traumatic stress disorder, which is one of the things I'm diagnosed with, on top of major depressive disorder and then substance use disorder. But I didn't like my dad. I didn't like what he did to my mom or my dad or my brother or myself. I just wasn't a fan of him. It was very hard for him to show affection. He was from a different generation. If I put food and a roof and clothes, I love you. Okay, sure, absolutely. But it was never, from my recollection, any I love yous, any hugs, or any kisses like that. But he did love me. But it was just difficult, you know. I didn't want to be there. I resented him a lot, and then I didn't understand why my mother stayed. I came to realize and find out later on in life that she didn't want to continue to run and move her family from house to house to house to house. This is her home. This is where she's staying. This is where she's going to raise her boys. It took strength and courage on her part, and I saw the strength of a woman on display as I grew up and understood what she meant by that. And I saw the strength of my dad as he changed. And I grew up in a home that I had a foundation in spirituality, in a loving God who I call Christ, I call Jesus, who is my higher power. I knew of that. I had that foundation, and I saw my dad change in that, from aggressive to drinking to abusive, um, to a man of God. And my mom always had it, you know. And I left at 18. Well, you know, I was tired of being around in Chocowinity, North Carolina. I didn't want to get stuck in the country. And I didn't want to be around my dad anymore. And I felt bad I had to leave my mom there, but it was just time for me to go. and my brother's 12 years older than me. So he left at 18. I'm 6. So he had to leave his brother and his mother behind, but he had to get just time to go. We were tired of that. So did a couple tours. First tour was, so I had that. So let me back up. In my childhood, in that part of it, to gain control. So that's the mental part of it. Where the addiction started to kick in is being sad, seeing what my mother went through, seeing what I went through. How could I gain some type of control? So that back in the day, there was these big satellite dishes, and you could move them by putting in different codes. And by putting in different codes, they would move to certain positions where you could get your HBOs, your Showtime, your Cinemax, your sports, and such and etc. There used to be scrambled porn. And scrambled porn was just enough for Derrick to see, oh, I knew what that is. I know what that is. And sometimes on a good day, it would come in for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Ooh, okay. And then there would be nights where back in the day they would, and I guess they still do it. I think they do. There would be like the soft porn where they don't really show too much. You know, you'll see a woman's breast and a man's bottom, but they don't show too much. It's not graphic. It's soft porn. Right. And I would look at that, and I would look at both, and I would gratify myself. I would indulge in self-pleasure. And I started doing that around 11 or 12. And that made me feel good. That gave me a sense of euphoria. I guess what the dopamine and the all those different chemicals that are released in the brain made me feel good, and I wanted more of it. And that helped combat seeing what I saw with the abuse to my mother and myself. It helped combat me feeling helpless. I can't do anything, and it made me feel good. And so that was the mental health start and the addiction start. Before, and then, you know, around freshman, sophomore year, I smoked some weed here and there, but nothing really was stuck. I didn't drink. I took my first sip of alcohol at 6. I didn't like it. It was a beer that my dad gave me. So moving forward, you know, I graduate, a good student, graduate, go to the military, 18, first tour in 2004, second tour in 2006, 26 months total in theater. First tour was in Iraq. Went to Kuwait first, then Iraq. Second tour was in Afghanistan. And then I had enough. So I lost a couple brothers and sisters. I lost 2 brothers I was close with. We went to basic airborne school, went to overseas together. So those was my homies. Those was my brothers, and they're not here anymore. And then in total, we lost a total of about maybe 15 or 16 brothers and sisters in the battalion of our battalion in that time in 04. 06 wasn't that bad. We came back in 05. We just read up to go back. 06, we was there for 12. And the first tour in 03 was there for 14. So it was just difficult. I'm over there 19 years old, holding grown men accountable and grown women accountable, because the scariest man I ever saw was Mr. Ernest Fields. So I won't tripping about being over there. It didn't bother me to be over there when they needed special detail to go cook and jump in food and parachute food in the 5s and to go convoy to other forwarding operating bases. I'm like, let's go. I didn't want to get stuck in the DFAC because the DFAC wasn't for us. They had their cooks, the civilians cook. We just was in control of rations. Well, we would food trucks would come in on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we would just do ration control. I'm like, I'm bored. Let's go. And they taught us different skills when we went out there, when we convoyed, because it was part of this special operation team to take food, supplies, and potable water to the troops out there. And we would see a lot of combat, and I had to defend myself and defend my brothers and sisters that were with me. So that first tour it was rough. Second one wasn't too bad, but I had enough. It was time for me to re-enlist. Got my E5, and I told the recruiting officer I want to go to Germany because I heard a black men have fun in Germany, and I want to go have fun in Germany. But he was like, "Nope, I see you to Korea." I was like, "Okay, I go to Korea," and there's that addiction again because I wanted to go see the ladies.
Right.
So, and but he said, "No, I send you Korea." ADA unit, Air Defense Artillery. They only go stateside and to Korea. So I was like, okay, Korea was fun. I got Korea was great. I got to see the Philippines. I went to Japan, Tokyo. I mean, I had fun. Took that. Still had unresolved childhood trauma. Now I have combat trauma. And now I'm in a place where I'm there for a year. This is like I tell everybody I equate it to going to college. This is like a college year for me, or like one of those, what do they call it? The gap year or the whatever year they call it. I can't think of it. My mind don't work like it used to. But it was just working, cooking
Right.
cooking in the dining facility. We would have trainings every now and then when we'd go out to the field for like 2 weeks, working out, shopping, and partying. And of course, that addictive personality was still there. It was his addictive personality in sex, addictive personality in shopping and clothes, addictive personality in um, uh, just exploring and wanting to know what the world was, and drugs too. We would not glorifying anything, but we would go out and drink, and then we would pop pills. As I think it was, what was it? The Corosine. It's the cough and cold Corosine, triple C's, and we would take a pack of those, like a slab of 8 or 16, and then you would mix it with like a Tylenol 800. Then you would go drink, and you would feel real sexy and real good. And because we couldn't get any weed at the time, or I knew people at the medics, and as a cook, you get perks because as long as everybody's nice to the cooks because we control the rations. And hey, for some Klonopins or some Percocets or some Valiums or whatever you may have, here's some extra food rations for you, or you come through the back door, I got you. So we would do that, and we would pop pills and we would drink. At the end of that, we was about to leave. Weed came around. We would smoke some weed and back to the States. And that's when everything really started to hit home. Excuse me. That's when everything started to hit the fan. It wasn't time to process any of that. There's no time to process. And then I get home. I get married for the first time. She gets deployed. I'm still in that mindset of like boy, cheating, men in adultery, popping pills, smoking weed, drinking, suicide attempts. I remember one time there was one suicide attempt where I had blacked out because I would start to get night terrors, and I was in my underwear and in the closet with my knife, and they had to kick in the door, and it was two times, two isolated incidences where I tried to take my life by overdosing and just wanted to go to sleep. I was a coward. I couldn't like do it by any other means. So hospitalized many more times than I can count on the psychiatric side, and detox and the substance use. And then it got okay for a while. Um, as I was growing, um, the addiction was still there. It was just I like how drugs and sex made me feel. Sex was good already by itself, but you telling me there is different substances I can put in my body that makes sex even more. And sex was where I measured my worth, if that makes sense. I measured my worth in the type of sex I could give, and
Was it like the quantity or like
quantity and quality. of, hey, I'm good at this. I've been good at this. I've never had, to my knowledge, a
Right.
bad review. You know what I mean? So I took pride in that. Like, my good sex, I'm making good money. I'm a good looking brother. And I like sex and I like drugs and I like cars. I like jewelry, all these worldly things that we're programmed to think that make us a man. And I didn't even know I had a problem. So back then you could call, they had sex hotlines where they had dating hotlines before they even had stuff on the internet. You could actually call in and get an hour for free. And I would call all the chat hotlines to get an hour for free. And I would meet up with girls and you would get, some would look who they look like and some don't, but some would be cute, some wouldn't, but whatever. Some would have good drugs, some would have good sex, and you meet them. Then okay, that was the thing. Life didn't become unmanageable yet, even though I had the 2 suicide attempts. The God of my understanding, who I choose to call Christ, was intervening in my life at that time and I didn't even know it. Okay, so I have a child. I meet my kid's mother. I meet my daughter. She's my son and daughter have the same mom. My daughter, she's not my biological daughter, but she's my daughter.
Right.
That's my baby. I'm her daddy. I don't care what nobody say. She was already 5 going on 6 when I met their mom, and then we had a kid, and I got divorced and trying to get out of the military, and so we're moving in together. I'm angry and mad because my unit won't support me. I'm trying to get out in med board, but that's not, med board is where you can get out and they you get your disability quicker, you get your compensation quicker. It's not such a hard fight if you can get med board. It's still an honorable discharge, but doctors have proven that you are unsuitable for duty. So yes, which I was. My commander understood, but first sergeant he ain't never been to combat, so it just didn't register. So I'm moving to San Antonio from Killeen, and I'm in Texas, and just mad, unresolved issues, became abusive to my kid's mom, and we broke up. And I went to Austin, Round Rock, Texas, and going to school to cook. Me and my kid's mom worked through our issues, and we're the best of friends now. That we're family. She's gonna come and do my show because her story is amazing in her testimony. But it took a lot of work to get to that point.
I'm sure.
But in that, now I didn't finish school. Getting involved with all different types of women, all different types of women, from you ain't ish Derrick types of women to stalkers and all types of just craziness. But I like the chaos,
Right.
because my whole life has been built around chaos, is which I found out. One of my therapists told me, which when I was doing CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which I was like, wow, my life has been a lot of chaos and a lot of uncertainty, and I've survived it. I like surviving. I like it. I thrive off surviving. I am a survivor. I like a chaotic environment because it gets me hyped. It gets my juices pumping. It gets my adrenaline going. And let me see what resources I can do, because I'm built for it. Like my son always used to say, I'm built different, Dad. I'm like, okay. I'm just built different, Dad. All right, then, whatever. But yeah, when that was, as I look back, yeah, I like chaos. A lot of my whole life has been chaos. Now, now you're telling me, wait a minute, let's back up. Now you're telling me that now there's a thing called escorts? Yeah, I knew that was overseas. And Asia, and of course Germany and other countries. There's escorts here in the United States. Yep. What? Backpage? What? Craigslist? What? List crawler? What? So you telling me that there are women out there that donate their time for they provide time and service for a donation. What? And they do party favors? What? Okay. And I don't have to deal with any of the extra? Sign me up. So continuously being a good dad, being in my kid's life, trying to go to school, trying to figure it out, trying to fight for my compensation, trying to fight for my disability. I get that. I'm living good. I'm living okay. My life has still not become unmanageable. Yes, there's chaos, but I don't see it as chaos. I see it as this is normal. If I need to take a break from it, I could take a break from it, go smoke me a joint and take a bowl hit, relax, watch me a funny movie, maybe go hang out with some friends. Okay. I'm building my comedy career and I'm doing well, where I'm up in Dallas and I'm starting to open up for a well-known comedian that he wanted me to open up for him for, because I wanted to get on his show that he was headlining, because in Hyenas and in the Improv. But I started off getting my footing in the Hyenas Comedy Club and then in the Improv and then all of that. And I was moving. Austin was good, but Dallas was where I was making my headway. And I was like, yo, I was talking to the club owner and I wanted to, hey, Butch, D is coming, Mr. Rollins is coming, and I want to host this show. So hosting the show is you do between 15 to 20 minutes. And I had that because at that time, it was about 7 years in. I did comedy for 8. It was about 7 years in. I had a solid 30-minute set that I've been working, busting, touring, going from Texas to Carolina and back and Midwest. I didn't never hit the West Coast. I was trying to get there, but I had 30 minutes because I knew to be a MC and a feature, you had to have 30 minutes. So to be a MC is you are the host of the show. So hosting of the show does between 15, 20. You bring up the feature, they do between 30 and 35. And the headliner does between 45 and an hour and a half. And as the MC, I do my set. I keep the crowd, I get them hyped. I get them lubed up. I get them ready. And then I bring on the feature. And then I just list the feature's accomplishments, where you can see them at. Then I come on, maybe do a little quick whip of something from the set that I observed or on the table, and then I bring on the headliner. And he liked my set. And I was like, listen, all I want to do right now is MC is open, because I just want to get that 15 to 20 minutes down. I got a good 30, but anywho, so I'm still doing comedy. I got a good relationship with my son, and my daughter's relationship is okay. You know, she saw a lot of the abuse that happened to her mom, and she had her resentment, which is understandable. We're working on that right now. We're working through that right now. But okay, good life. I knew I wanted to be a comedian. Humor is in my blood. Humor is the gift that God gave me. Humor is my gift. And that's the way I wanted to be of service to people. Still escorting, and in that life, being a client, being a regular, having regulars, and still indulging in different substances that can make sex better. And then the one that hit was crack cocaine. Crack cocaine hit like a ton of bricks. Crack cocaine was the one substance that I could not brush off. Everything else I could just be like, whatever, I'm good with that. I don't like it. It's cool. I may do it every now and then. But I was the type of person that I would do cocktails of different things to make whatever that sex experience could be better, and to, of course, escape, numb, and just not feel anything that I didn't want to feel that was negative or depressing. But yeah, crack cocaine, Chris, was the one that just hit, and that's when things started to become unmanageable. Started pawning my kids' stuff, started pawning it, getting it back, pawning it, getting it back. I would pimp out my car for drugs and sex. I missed two of my son's birthdays. I missed my daughter's graduation from high school. In and out of detox, homeless, homeless. Well, some people say if you had a car, you're not homeless. I had a car, but I didn't have a home. My home was my car, but I didn't want to live under a bridge or
Right.
I tried that I didn't like it. It wasn't uncomfortable. So I made sure, and this is God again interceding. I made sure whatever sense in that fog of addiction that I was in, God made sure that my car note was on auto pay and my car note was on auto pay. So I always had somewhere to sleep and I could always go get my sex or my dope.
So
Yeah.
let's backtrack a little towards the beginning when the addiction started, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um so I just recently started like openly talking about similar addiction. It took 3 years to bring it up to my therapist because I feel we're in a generation where men can't talk about this stuff openly without being labeled as pig, this, that, or the third, right? And for me, I think the same exact addiction to porn was when I was young. When I was about 13, 14 years old. Um, that stemmed from an incident that happened to me when I was about 4 years old. With a not four, maybe like 6 years old, I think, with a young lady that lived across the street from us. She knew of things that only adults should know. And she would show me those things that she knew, which was crazy to think about now because I was only 6, and obviously no kid that young should be exposed to something like that. Um, that progressed into being hypersexual, like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And to put it to you this way, my first rated R movie was Basic Instinct. Um,
Ooh, okay.
and,
Yeah.
and that movie is very graphic.
Yes, it is.
Um, and thinking about it now, being 31 now, and that addiction still kind of looms here and there, and I try my best to break it. It's like you said, man, it was a means to feel something in a life that you've known nothing but chaos around you, right?
Yes.
And being able to openly talk about it now, I still feel there's that slight of shame there because it's just like we're in a society where it's okay to empower women with the OnlyFans stuff, and if they're doing stripping, if whatever they're doing that happens to be expressing their sexuality in a legal manner, right? But if men talk about their addiction to porn or addiction to sex, we're labeled every negative word in the book. So I guess that kind of just leads me to the question for you. Do you think minus the drug portion of what the sex and stuff led to, do you think that addiction to sex, that addiction to porn, was a negative experience for you? Like, I guess a negative mentality, I guess, is the right phrasing I'm looking for.
As I grow in my faith, yes. Before then, no, because I was still I was still in the world. I was
Right.
still I wanted it, and I wanted it. I like how you said hypersexual. I like that. I'm gonna use that. Thank you. Um, yeah, that definitely hits. That is a. I mean, I know that's not the first time that word has been ever said, but I haven't heard it in a while. But yeah, hypersexual. Yes, it's negative now
Yeah.
because I just basic vanilla missionary is boring. And I'm trying to ask my God or my higher power to reset my clock or clean my plate, because I have a beautiful wife and I want that, just being with her,
Right.
knowing her in that way should be all I need.
Right.
The sense of the hypersexual activity and still dealing with that particular
Mindset.
immorality, yeah, it gets in the way of my marriage sometimes. And my wife is very patient because she knows as her faith grows that God will help me learn from it, deliver me from it, and get me through. But yeah, now, yes, because I don't want it to become a problem and it's and bring an issue or a rift between me and my wife, right?
Right.
And then I'm a weird man. All the things. My wife is the person I should be able to explore with,
Right.
but I see her as this precious, loving thing that I don't want to defile her, but I want to, but I don't. I don't know. So she was like, "Tell me, just tell me." I'm like, "I can't." Like you told me before, Derek. I can't. You will think horribly of your husband. Like, Derek, you told me things, and we've done things already. That I'm like, ooh, yeah. I'm clapping,
Golf
ladies and
clap.
gentlemen. If
The
you can't see
golf.
this, I'm giving my golf clap to my wife because we have. Like,
Holy shit.
but yeah, man. So to answer your question, brother Chris, yes, it got to that point where yeah, it's negative because I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. I
Right.
want to be reset. Yeah. And I tell her, and she has her experiences before me, and I understand that. But I was like, but I tell her, I'm like, but you have no idea. There's a world out there that you don't know that I've been a part of.
Right.
Like I went to search things out on that sex thing, like overseas and in different dungeons and different places that you have to have a membership and you have to be escorted with a member and yeah. So it is now. Yes, it wasn't then, but it is now. Yeah.
Right. And just for the listeners as well, I want to explain uh what being hypersexual does to a person. It literally starts from the moment you wake up to the second you fall asleep. It's not just like a when you're in the mood kind of thing. It's literally in every little piece of your day.
Yes.
And it does crazy things to your brain. And that's the addiction part of it, right? And I don't want to just throw it out there and say it feels like a disorder, but I definitely feel like it's a chemical in your brain that's just like uh part of my language, but fucking with you constantly. And um it's really hard for me to come on this podcast and openly talk about it because it's, again, society tells men that we're this, that, and the third when we talk about this stuff, but has no problem uplifting women and empowering women for doing all the things that they're doing to express their sexuality and stuff. But it took me 3 years to tell my therapist that I was struggling with it. And, her being a woman, I already didn't feel comfortable talking about that kind of stuff because it's just like,
Who are you telling? Who are you telling? I told my therapist at that time, I said, "You're pretty. You're a beautiful woman. And this is very hard because," and I told her straight up, I said, "At some point, as we're talking, I'm taking pictures so that I can go find you, not you, but someone similar to what you look like and satisfy myself." And she was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah. What do you think we're talking about? You're a sex therapist. What do you think?" Yes.
right.
That's how this goes. This isn't what you thought I was gonna come talk to you about? Erectile dys? No, I don't know what that is. No, I'm you. I said, do you not understand how hard this is? And she was a beautiful white woman, blonde hair, with the nice old school 70s gold glasses, just with the nice little red lipstick. I'm like, just a pretty. And I told my wife, I said, Cass, God messing with me. He funny. Like, he would really give me a woman. And I said, I had to tell her, I said, Kay, I have to be real with you, because if I don't, what's the point? I'm tired of holding this secret in, because it's killing me. And
Right.
you are an attractive woman. You are a beautiful woman. And yeah, like
And
I
like straight up, I couldn't tell a dude therapist like that, like just like a regular dude therapist. I could never. Um, and a lot of people have asked me in my journey of like therapists and stuff. I'm like, oh well, have you ever considered like still going to Jess, but also seeing a guy therapist about about stuff that maybe Jess couldn't possibly help you with. I'm like, I'd be too afraid of that silent judgment, to be honest with you, man.
yeah,
Like,
I take the woman any day over. Yeah, I take the woman any day.
and you know
Yeah.
what, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, it always feels like obviously I feel comfortable enough talking to you about this stuff, so it doesn't really bother me too much that we're having this conversation. But like, I couldn't imagine if I had a guy therapist and be like, hey bro, like I struggle with this, and oh well, I don't know how the conversation would look, and I don't even want to like think of how it would go, because
Yeah.
before I told Jess, I had it written down on a piece of paper. That was the first thing that I was gonna bring up to her, because it was something that I felt like I feel like she knows like every little detail about my life, and every detail about me now. And before I told her that, it's just like, okay, I've told her about my brother passing away. I've told her about Amy passing away, but I haven't found the courage to tell her about this, because she's a woman and I respect her being a woman. I don't want to. And I think it's because society throws the word creep at guys too. I don't want to come off like that, because I'm not, and um, I had a full blown anxiety attack before I started a session with her, man. Like, I felt embarrassed talking about it, because, again, that shame, that society norm that guys shouldn't be doing XYZ because that's not what guys do, and
Yes.
she was very reassuring. She was very understanding about it, and thus having this conversation on podcast with you, man. Like, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciated you talking about it when we were on the NAMI platform, because that was something I intentionally didn't bring up, because, again, shame, public platform, didn't feel
Hmm.
exactly comfortable. But
Right.
now we're at the point where I can have this conversation with you, and, it not bother me too much to express that I can identify with that addiction.
And that's the point. That's why
Right.
we do this, to let people know that there's a community that you can share. You can share openly and freely without judgment. And listen, you could be talking and there's someone in the back of the room, and this has been me, that is like, cool, they're talking about that. Okay, cool. It's not just me. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. Ooh, I'm gonna go see who I'm gonna go. Okay, who is that? Okay, I'm gonna go talk to them after the meeting. I want to go talk to them because I want to know, how did they get that courage to do what they just did on the platform, or in this room, in this circle, or on the floor, and what are they doing to combat it or to recover in it? What does that look like? Because I want a piece of it. Yeah, man. And my wife is the best. She was like, just Derrick, don't keep the secret. Don't keep the secret, because it's gonna keep you sick. And I'm like, okay. And I made Kate blush a couple times. I made her blush a couple times, because I'm like, you know what? If it ain't you, then who? And she was very understanding. She blushed a couple times, but there was some things that I still there's a couple things that I didn't like. I'm just thankful she never asked me, so what are some categories of things that you like? I'm like, we can't do that. You don't
Yeah,
want,
we can't talk about
we
that.
can't go there.
That's where I draw the line.
That's where I draw the line. Just know I like having sex with women, and if there's more than one woman, that's cool too.
Goodness.
I don't mind watching two women. I don't mind watching, but yeah, we can't. Yeah, because then you're gonna look at me. You probably gonna disconnect. Yeah.
The trap door in the office.
This telehealth call has been disconnected. Like, oh, okay.
You're no longer allowed to call this office. Done.
No. Every time you call back, she's unavailable. Yeah. For real.
She doesn't want to talk to you anymore.
She doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Oh God, yeah. Cause so there's some things that I talk to God about, I talk to my wife about, and my wife, man, she's the best. Cause it was like, man, it used to take a long time to be like, yo, you just don't understand the type of. She was like, I know you done told me. I'm like, I told you already. Yes. Dang. All right, then. So, but yeah, man, that sex is my first addiction.
Right.
Crack just was part of the symptom.
An extension of it.
An extension, right. Thank you. Better word, an extension. Yes. But sex was my addiction. I tell everybody, because even in AA, in AA, I go to both, but because I learn, I like learning, and I like hearing people's stories, and recovery looks different for everybody. And I want to take and use and oh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay. That I might use that. In AA, in NA, some of the literature says, mood and mind altering substances. I say mood and mind altering activities because it was an activity for me before substance even was the extension. So it was an activity, and it's always been an activity. The drug, the sex, the going to get the drug, the going to get the sex, putting it together, making it work is an activity. Is the chase and the feast and the going to go hunt for the substance, for the lady or ladies, and get it all together to make it work coherently, to make the best time ever, is an event, is an activity. And sometimes it can be chaotic, and sometimes it can be very nice.
Right.
But I'm addicted to all of it. So I mean, I'm in recovery, but addicted to all of it. Yeah.
So before we wrap up this session, because I know we're gonna finish the story on a second one, would you say comedy was just was it another pathway for you to just try and overcome like you said, the chaos going on in your life, and just like trying to forget that addiction part and moving it into something a little more healthier as a coping tool?
Comedy is just something that is my we had talked about how music is, and when you had came on my show, we talked about, for you, music is something that you hold close to as a part of as a recovery tool. Comedy is something that has saved my life, where man, in the midst of any dark corner, any dark pit or hole, man, I love laughter. Can get me out. Laughter of dark humor, goofy humor, silly humor, slapstick, whatever the case may be, humor is just humor. It's just, I can't frown when I'm trying to laugh. I can't. You look ridiculous. I mean, I can't. Laughter is just, man, it's one of those things.
It gets you through some of the worst
times. Yes. Laughter is a, and I love seeing those people they're trying to hold it in when they're still trying to be mad. Like, nah, let it out, let it go. And I do that with kids, man. I was at Walmart one time, and I know we got to wrap up. I was at Walmart one time, get some money out of the bank, and this lady, she was at the bank, and her kid and her she had a baby in the cart, and then her daughter was watching while she was talking to the banker. And I was messing with the daughter, and she's like, she ain't gonna laugh. She'll look right through you. I'm like, okay. So I was just like, you know you're gonna laugh, right? You know you're gonna smile. Stop playing. You know you're gonna smile. And she started smiling. She's like, how did you do that? I'm like,
it's a gift.
It's a gift. Because I don't talk to kids or babies like they like no, like you understand what I'm saying to you. Because I talk with my eyes and like you know what I'm saying. You know. Okay, I know. And they smile. It's just humor is my gift, and I thought that's the path that God wanted me on, but it wasn't. He wanted me to understand my humor, and I can use it in other ways to help people in their recovery journey.
Who's your top 3 favorite comedians?
Oh my goodness, man. Patrice O'Neal. I'm just a Patrice fan. I like his bold, brash, in your face. He would get canceled today if he was still alive.
100%.
He would get canceled today, 100%. Yes, but I that's my type of comedy. Fearless, in your face, unapologetic man. I'm a man, and I ain't apologizing for being this man that God made me to be. I hunt. I like a woman. I'm a man. I like it. Top 3, man. Good grief.
Got to catch you off guard.
You did, because I'm not trying to give. I don't want to give those go-to answers that people always give to. No, don't get me wrong. I definitely like Richard Pryor, of course, Eddie Murphy.
Absolute genius.
Yes, for sure. I'm a fan of Dave Chappelle. I like the way
he's another fearless one.
Yes, I like the way he approaches comedy. Like you said, another fearless person that approaches comedy intellectually. Him and Patrice, they both do it differently, but in an intellectual way. Patrice does it more in a, hey, if I'm a fisherman, I go fish for sport. I fish. Women are the fish. I get to fish. I show my friends. All right. And I do this. I go fishing. I put the fish back. But some of you women want to jump back on the boat. Right. So why do you still need to fish? It's just the philosophy of if you don't smell fish on me, then you are not going to find me attractive. So you have to have smell fish on me so you can act right. And I'm like, he would get canceled today. Oh, he's a misogynist. They were calling him that back then. Anyway, they're both intellectual in the way they do it.
You know who was another fearless one is Red Fox.
Oh yeah, Red was ahead of his time.
Yep.
Red was ahead of his time when he did his stand-up. Yeah, I would definitely put Red up there. I'm definitely a Red Fox fan. Definitely the whole Sanford and Son. But that Sanford and Son is completely different than what he did on stage. Oh, yeah. He was straight fearless, straight no chaser, none. Yeah, I'd throw Red Fox in there. Absolutely.
For me, I'd probably say Robin Williams is one of my absolute favorite stand-up guys. I think he's absolutely hysterical. Just because it's a go-to, and I can't slight him because he's one of my favorites. Eddie Murphy, man, like Delirious and Raw were just so flawless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stand-ups. I kind of wish he did more with the stand-ups instead of just jumping right into Hollywood, but I get why he did.
You couldn't help it. He was hot. I mean, it was just the best thing. He couldn't deny that. He was just hot.
Who's another comedian that isn't talked about nearly enough is Gene Wilder.
I like Gene. Gene was funny.
Have you ever seen Hear No Evil, See
No Evil? Yeah, absolutely.
I swear to God, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen Richard Pryor and himself in.
Yeah, him and Richard Pryor were a dynamic duo.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Their comedic genius was hilarious. I'm also an I Love Lucy fan, a Carol Burnett fan. I grew up watching I Love Lucy and Carol Burnett. They were just both, that's that slapstick, physical, and Steve Martin.
Steve Martin's another one.
Oh, he is so underrated. Underrated. He's so underrated. He does not get enough credit of the
I was
genius that he
watching
was.
Little Shop of Horrors a
Yeah.
couple months ago, and he's just absolutely brilliant in that movie.
Yes. He doesn't get the due that he's supposed to get as a comedic genius talent.
Right.
Yes. I mean, good gracious. If you go look back at his old stuff, it's just brilliant, man.
Like
So
Saturday Night Live stuff was just so
yeah.
good.
Yes. So
But so as you know, at the end of every podcast, I'd like to read of a quote just based on whatever we're talking about. This being Suicide Prevention Month, I found a quote just to kind of give people that light. Before I read mine, did you have like any quote or anything that you live by to give to our listeners?
for me, I don't have a quote, but I do. I pray, I meditate, and I just um, I go to my word. I go to my Bible. That's for me. I know that's not going to fit everybody, but I'm just giving you what works for me. I'm a Bible guy. I read my Bible, I read my word, and I pray and I meditate, and that's a part of my recovery. Just like doing this podcast, just like calling Chris if I need him, and anybody else going to meetings. That's maybe someone needs to hear that too. So.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So the quote that I have is by Mr. Matt Haig, and it reads, "Soak up the views, take in the bad weather and the good weather. You are not the storm."
I like it.
I think that last line, "You are not the storm," is probably one of the most important lines I've ever read, just for the sole fact that some people are just so used to sitting in that negative mindset in that storm that they think life happens to them and not for them.
Right.
And I feel as the seasons go on, as every day passes, you earn every single day and you be grateful. I know it's really hard for so many people to be grateful, especially if you just suffered a loss or if you're recovering like yourself and myself, or if you're dealing with addiction, whatever it is that you're battling. I know it's hard to be grateful. Um, I'm grateful for the simple fact that I was given the chance to create this platform, be part of this movement, be part of this wonderful community. That's hard to spread that word in, but I'm grateful nonetheless. And before we wrap up, I just want to give this to our listeners as well. If you're struggling, please don't hesitate to call the 988 number. There's also other resources that you can look up on your local NAMI website. And if you ever need anything, you may or may not have my information. But Derrick, where can our listeners find you?
They can, if they want to reach out to me, they can email me at playthetape88@gmail.com. I will get back to you. If you want to listen to Play the Tape podcast, you can look us up on our YouTube channel, Play the Tape. We're on Amazon Audible, we're on iHeartRadio, and we're on Spotify. All Play the Tape, all across the board. And coming soon, hopefully within the next month or two, there will be playthetape.me. It is, if you are in the Pitt County, North Carolina area listening to this, or even if you're not, go to that community page and look up resources. Not only do we have community-based resources for the Pitt County, Greenville, North Carolina area, we also have national resources there as well. And we're hoping to grow that platform too. And it'll be a place where you can listen to the podcast. You can listen to Chris. He's up there. It'll be a place where you not only can listen to the podcast, you can be interactive and submit letters to whatever and whomever you want your letter to be. And your letter will be on the website for other people to read and share alike. We will vet letters and things like that, but we ask that you do submit your letters up there. These are letters of inspiration, strength, and hope to and my letters and letters from my community will be up there too, so you can get a feel for what people are writing to their addiction, to suicide, to their fathers, to their mothers, to their higher powers. It could be whatever you want to write your letter about to give you that therapeutic release.
Wonderful, man. Thank you. Thank you again so much for being on the podcast today, man.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you can have me back anytime. I love doing this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, the comedy was good, but this is home. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. I can't wait to record the part two, guys. So stay tuned for part two or following this episode. And as a constant reminder, guys, it's okay to not be okay. And as always, be well and be gentle.